News with Andrew Wilson.
Very good evening to you. Senior politicians, including the Prime Minister, have been paying tribute to the former Cabinet Minister Lord Brittan, who's died at the age of 75. David Cameron said he was a dedicated and fiercely intelligent public servant. As Leon Brittan, he was a senior figure in the early years of Margaret Thatcher's government in the 1980s and went on to become a European Commissioner. But more recently, he became embroiled in allegations that he'd failed to act on evidence of a Westminster-based paedophile ring during his time as Home Secretary. Sky's deputy political editor Joey Jones now reports.
The last period of Leon Brittan's long career at the top flight of British politics was clouded by an affair that remains unresolved at his death.
Where is the dossier, sir?
In recent months, even as he was fighting cancer, he was also grappling with questions about whether, as Home Secretary, he did enough to look into allegations of institutionalised child abuse.
There's going to be a statement at lunchtime.
It has been dragging on and on. Even the very morning, just hours after Leon Brittan had in fact died, MPs were once again discussing the tortuous issue of how to set up a broad-based child abuse inquiry, looking, among other things, into the idea there was a Westminster paedophile ring. Now, so many questions came back to Leon Brittan's door because as Home Secretary he'd been handed a dossier with a string of dramatic allegations that went missing, prompting some to believe there was a cover-up on his watch. Such is the suspicion harboured by victims of child abuse that when it became clear the proposed head of the abuse inquiry, Fiona Woolf, had personal links to Lord Brittan, she had to stand down, the second person to do so, and no replacement has yet been identified.
Well, I think it's a great shame that his last days were dogged by these completely unsubstantiated allegations. He gave a full account of what he did at the time. And on the basis of that account, he acted perfectly properly and did the right thing.
When news of Lord Brittan's death emerged, friends and colleagues preferred to focus on happier memories.
He was a kind, assiduous and brilliant man, and I know the whole House will join me in sending our deepest condolences to his wife, Diana, at this difficult time.
Leon Brittan was no stranger to controversy in his Westminster career. He was the fall guy in the Westland affair that rocked the Thatcher administration, forced to resign from his job as Trade and Industry Secretary. Subsequently, he spent years in Brussels as a senior European Commissioner. But memories of his accomplishments are inevitably overshadowed by the widespread sense that something rotten was going on in Westminster around the time Lord Brittan was in high office. Police investigations continue, and a full inquiry will eventually get underway. Until a clear picture is established, it's hard to separate Leon Brittan's name from what some believe may prove to be one of the most shocking political scandals of modern times. Joey Jones, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, the current Home Secretary has confirmed that a file unearthed by Sky News containing allegations of unnatural sexual behaviour inside Westminster will now be investigated. Theresa May was also challenged over why there's still no chairman to lead the government's abuse inquiry, 200 days after it was announced that one would be set up. Sky's Tom Parmenter reports.
A government file has emerged containing further potential allegations of abuse.
Dealing with unnatural sexual behaviour at the top of government.
Any allegations in relation to that file will be passed to the police.
The demands for transparency have again reached the House of Commons. The file, found in the National Archives and highlighted by Sky News yesterday, is entitled Allegations Against Former Public, and then a word missing, of Unnatural Sexual Proclivities, Security Aspects. It's dated 1980 to 1981 and is still held by the Cabinet Office on grounds of national security. It went through Margaret Thatcher's office and was prepared for the then Prime Minister by the security services.
The revelations by Sky News yesterday about the document were significant and illuminating. And there's a clear public interest in knowing whether a former Prime Minister received a briefing on sexual crimes committed by a senior intelligence officer or officers. Regardless of whether the inquiry get to see the document, can the Home Secretary not commit to publish the document now in the public interest?
The file has been passed to the police so that they are able to look at any issues within that file which they should be properly investigating. And I can assure the House that the file will be made available.
None of it surprises Don Hale, a journalist who has spent 30 years trying to uncover the truth. He's adamant there are other secret files.
Well, I think there's a lot of files out there. I mean, I've been told quite clearly by, ex-coppers, ex-spooks or whatever, that there is a paper trail, there are files still available. And I did a piece in July saying where these files were, and some of these included the National Archives.
The Home Secretary has promised to announce the next head of the child abuse inquiry by the end of the month. Regaining the trust of survivors will take far longer. Tom Parmenter, Sky News.
Well, let's go live to Tom Parmenter, who's in North Wales for us tonight. Tom, the story's still moving clearly. Where do these inquiries stand at the moment?
Well, the inquiry's investigations are centred on Westminster, but the effects of the abuse that took place there and in other parts of the capital stretch far beyond London. They stretch to many parts of the United Kingdom, not least here in North Wales. And we now know, of course, that Leon Brittan will not be part of any of the inquiries, will not be able to reveal exactly what he knew to the investigations. And a lack of transparency has been a fundamental problem throughout all this. You saw an interview there with Don Hale, the investigative journalist, in that report. And he has battled for decades to try to get answers on all this, to try to get government departments to open up as to exactly what has been going on. He's been physically threatened by the authorities who have tried to close him down. Tonight he spoke to us about the death of Leon Brittan.
Well, I'm very sad to hear about his death, for one. And I'm disappointed that he's not been available, shall we say, to answer some very searching questions about the Westminster paedophile ring. My feeling is that he has deliberately deceived the country, that he had the power to investigate the Dickens dossier, the Barbara Castle dossier and other information that's come to him over this time, and for that I cannot forgive him.
There are still many, many questions to be resolved, but the fundamental problem in all this is a matter of trust for the survivors who hear those grand promises that have been made by David Cameron, by Theresa May, and they see the reality of what is actually happening. And there is a big gap between the promises being made and the reality of what is actually happening in terms of action, which all survivors want to see.
Tom, thanks very much indeed. Prince Andrew is under increased pressure to respond to sexual misconduct claims as he hosts a reception at the World Economic Forum in Davos. It's the first time he's appeared in public since an American woman alleged she was forced to have sex with him when she was 17. Today, her lawyers repeated the claims in new legal documents as they prepare their case against him. From Davos, our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills reports.
Prince Andrew may have hoped that Davos would be a place where he could blend in.
Morning, sir. Please.
A talking shop for the world's great and good. But more court papers filed in America have brought the focus back to the allegations against him. Virginia Roberts, seen here with the Duke in 2001, is behind the claims. These latest documents reveal more details about her alleged sexual encounters with Prince Andrew, and also photos of her as a young teenager during time that she spent with his former friend Jeffrey Epstein. This letter has also been filed by her lawyers, asking the prince to give evidence under oath, raising questions about how he'll respond.
There is no reason for that he has to respond at this time. They would hope that he would, so they could save time and effort. And it may not be easy for them, in any event, to seek to force a response from him. It's very, very complicated for U.S. lawyers to try to get testimony from parties outside the United States.
It was in February 2011 that Prince Andrew was criticised for continuing his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, who'd spent time in jail over child prostitution charges. Later that year, it forced Andrew to step down as UK trade envoy. It was then at the start of this year that Buckingham Palace released 2 statements strenuously denying claims that the Duke had sex with Virginia Roberts when she was 17. Every year, Davos becomes a world stage for politicians, the biggest business leaders and royalty. As the Belvedere Hotel prepared to host the Duke's reception, promoting British entrepreneurs, there were those keen to defend him.
We've seen Prince Andrew doing a lot of good things around the world, as indeed we see the royal family. And, as a country which has the Queen as the constitutional head of state, we have great respect for the royal family and the things that they do. And I think that's very important.
The Duke and his team were hoping that this trip to Davos may refocus attentions back onto the work that he does to promote UK businesses. But we understand that Prince Andrew has spoken privately to other delegates here, expressing his frustration that he hasn't been able to confront publicly these allegations. American lawyer Alan Dershowitz, who faces accusations from the same woman, believes that Andrew should use Davos as a stage to deny the claims.
If she's made up a story about one person, which I know she's made up about me, nobody should believe any stories about other people. So I hope the Prince will respond. I hope he'll respond vigorously and aggressively. He should not pull any punches, and he should call her what she is, a liar.
Buckingham Palace has made it clear that they have nothing more to add. We wait for the Duke's speech to see if he feels the same. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Davos.
And Rhiannon joins us now live from Davos tonight. What expectations can we have about Prince Andrew's talk tonight, Rhiannon?
Well, in the next 10 minutes or so, we're expecting those 200 guests to start arriving at the Belvedere Hotel. They were invited to this event called Pitch at Palace, designed to focus on British entrepreneurs. But the significance of the event has become even greater since we heard those allegations released early in January. This is going to be the Duke's first public engagement, if you like. And in the next hour or so, he is set to deliver that speech, no doubt very carefully worded.